Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Bird Burger, where we talk about all things wildlife and nature oriented. When I started out this channel, I had kind of a vision to not only keep encouraging the older generation of wildlife photography that's already so prevalent, but also to help encourage the younger generation and raise up a younger generation that's passionate about this art form. So today I'm joined by wildlife photographer Christopher Smith, who is absolutely destroying my quality of images, showing me up with every single shot that he takes. Dude, how old are you?
I'm 15 now. I actually turned 15 a couple of days ago.
You are taking some amazing images at your age. Like, I don't think I even had half that creativity at your age. That's amazing.
Thanks so much, man.
So wildlife photography culture seems to be dominated a lot by the older generation of, I guess, people. And that's really cool because when it comes to experience and knowing how to take really great standard photos of wildlife, I feel like there's so many experienced people out there that have been doing this for years, have some really good skills under their belt. However, I think that's something that's really unique about the younger generation is that you guys tend to be able to have a lot of creativity and uniqueness kind of in your images. Like, you used the word before we started recording here, experimental, and I really like that word. I think there's a lot of value to that. How do you think you being under 18, under 21, someone who's at the age of 15 like you are, how do you think that affects you and the way you capture photography from kind of your perspective?
Yeah, so a lot of the times I feel like younger photographers are kind of pushed down more, like, or belittled, that's the word, by older photographers. But I feel like lately it's kind of been, we've been more accepted by the older community, and I feel like there's more of a space for us now. And I feel like when I'm capturing images, a lot of the times what I try to do is examine the scene around me, see like interesting parts to an image, like foreground, background, all that stuff, and I try to kind of piece that together, or I have a vision beforehand of the type of shot I want to create, and I just go out and set up and try over again until I get the image I want. Kind of trial and error. Yeah,
you're noticing maybe things that maybe have been overlooked so often. I know even for me, I mean, I've only been doing this, I'd have to count my brain. I think I've been doing it like 5 years or something like that. And even after just 5 years of specifically doing wildlife photography, I feel like sometimes I lack that like creativity and that rawness of like noticing things when I'm out in nature. And that's really cool that you say that. Like, you're noticing, like, even in that Northern Harrier image, you went out with this idea of like, how can I get at blue hour, which is a time where photographs are rarely taken of wildlife, how can you get that type of color, that type of mood, and combine it with like this unique technique of slow exposure. So I think that's really cool. I think that something that's really awesome too is that the younger generation of wildlife photographers has a lot of passion to work with in terms of like caring for nature. So not only in your art form, but also in your care and concern for nature. And in the first podcast we ever laid out on this channel, the one I had with Matt Gold, we talked about how the younger generation can be a strong force of change for good because there's so much passion and so much care there. But we also talked a little bit about the cancer culture on all of it. I'd be curious to know, with 40% of my audience that watches and that's under, in their lower 30s and under, how do you think that the younger generation effectively engages this conversation for caring for nature and wildlife? And how do you think that the younger generation poorly engages this conversation in caring for nature?
One thing the younger generation can do really well is civil discourse. We can talk things out, kind of share opinions, whereas I feel like sometimes the older generation kind of sees it one-sided and doesn't like to look on other people's point of views. And so a lot of the times it ends up just going nowhere. But oftentimes I've found with talking with younger photographers, a lot of the times we can reach understandings and be like, okay, I might not agree with your opinion, but I can totally see where you're coming from. And I just think that's really great about our community. But another thing I've kind of noticed is that sometimes I feel like we can be a little immature about things and kind of, I don't know, just use less professional ways of talking. But I really think the younger generation definitely gets along really well. and we have a really good time communicating with each other.
Yeah, that's some really good stuff that you're sharing. Yeah, I think that it definitely, I mean, such is life, right? Where as you kind of get more and more ingrained into something, it becomes harder and harder to change or maybe accept those other things around you, like you're saying. So yeah, I think that's a really good perspective. I do think, yeah, like you said, though, at the same time, sometimes it can almost be a little bit too, I don't know if the word would be blunt or aggressive, maybe, and sometimes in some scenarios, like interactions I've even had with younger wildlife photographers. Like, I mean, actually the other week I was having a conversation with someone after that wildlife photography ethics video that I had with Matt Gold, and they reached out to me. It was a younger lady, and we were kind of talking back and forth, and yeah, we had a really good conversation, like a really solid conversation, and it started out a little bit heated. She was kind of questioning why I would say certain things that I said. But it wound up getting to a really good spot where we were able to kind of like both say what we were thinking, kind of both understand each other, and be like courteous by the end of it. And it was great. And I think that's a really cool quality that the younger generation does have, like you're saying, is kind of living in this place of discomfort and a willingness to conversate about things.
Yeah, and I think with what you said about how it started out a little heated, I think that's exactly like my experience. But oftentimes, yeah, they kind of come around and, you know, start sharing opinions and, you know, yeah, just seeing what each other's thoughts on a certain topic are.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, that's 100% true. Yeah. Versus, yeah, I know, for example, like if I talk to my dad about things, my dad's an amazing person. I love my dad to death, has a great heart, great perspective on a lot of things too. But if we disagree on something, like I know there's no way in heck he's changing his mind for a while.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So something else that I think would be really cool to kind of address and talk about is like, I've noticed for myself that being someone who's relatively younger myself, not as young as you, I think, you know, I'd be 10 years older than you, I guess. Gosh, that's crazy. I'm 10 years older than you. I didn't even realize that till now. But yeah, something I've noticed even for myself as I've grown up through this digital age and like technology progressing so quickly, is that like attention span becomes harder and harder to manage for myself. So like, I mean, for example, when I was a kid, all we had was TV, and you know, you're watching things, you're pretty committed to whatever you're watching at the moment. You flip to a channel and you just commit to it. You don't think about clicking off until the end of the episode or whatever it may be. But then we get into this age, you know, maybe like 10 years ago, more around the time I was hitting junior high and high school personally, where now we have like Facebook and YouTube, and we're doing shorter, kind of medium format videos where you have the ability to click off, but you're still relatively committed because you're clicking on things and you kind of have interest in what you're searching. But now we live in this culture of like, I mean, you know, 15 seconds with Instagram, and then it was like 8 seconds on Vine, and now it's just TikTok and Reels and like all this stuff. And I've noticed that even in wildlife photography, I feel like it becomes harder and harder for me to be present in nature and enjoy nature by just being still and breathing because of all this, rather than just kind of like running around with the chicken with my head cut off. So yeah, I guess my question is like, can you tell me kind of how you see this kind of like this new kind of way of life adapting with wildlife photography? And do you have like, I guess, any ideas on like, I guess how you would be dealing with it or how you would approach it in your scenario?
Well, I definitely agree though with the attention span just kind of going out the window, as far as, you know, with the quick consumption of media through like Instagram Reels and all that. And I think one thing I've noticed also is it's like with longer, like say Instagram TV videos where people have uploaded kind of like short documentaries. A lot of people don't watch the whole thing. They just kind of click on it and watch the first 30 seconds or so, and then they're like off to watch Reels or something. Yeah. But yeah, with photography, I've definitely noticed that a few times. Sometimes I just go out and I'm just like not feeling it, and I'll just be in the field and I'll be like, man, why can't I just get something right away? But I think one thing for myself is I have to realize that I need to trust the process, and I need to just keep shooting, keep practicing. Otherwise, I'm not going to get anything good, or I'm not going to improve at all. For example, I think you might have seen recently I posted a Sora and a Virginia Rail image.
Oh yeah.
And those two images required a lot of patience.
Yep.
Because they're super skulky and it's extremely difficult to get close and get good images. And so I often found that I'd have to sit in the water with my waders, oftentimes getting water inside the waders, and getting really uncomfortable. But it was all worth it in the end when I finally got those images. And it kind of just showed me, you know, that the patience paid off and just going out there and enjoying yourself and enjoying the birds.
Yeah, that's some solid stuff. And by the way, that was an awesome image. I remember you posting that up, and I remember thinking exactly to myself that, like, man, that's awesome, because I haven't been able to get a good shot of a Sora ever, because geez, they're so stinking hard to photograph, man. And you have to be so patient. You have to really commit to it. So good job on that. But yeah, I think that's some really good stuff that you bring up. I really like how you were kind of talking about, like, just like a willingness to be patient, it sounds like. It makes me think about too, like, when the first video I ever released on this channel was some top tips from wildlife photographers that I know and I'm connected with here on YouTube and other places. And Gunnar sent in the video where he talks about, like, most important thing for him wasn't only just patience, but actually perseverance, because sometimes you're just sick of it. Like, you're just like, man, I don't want to be waiting here anymore. Like, why am I waiting around? Especially like with my students that I have in my mentorship, sometimes like they'll get frustrated because they're like, hey, I've been like trying to get this, you know, shot of a great blue heron for X amount of days, and I've been waiting and it just hasn't been happening. And I'm like, just be patient, just have the perseverance, just push through it, get to the next one. And eventually, usually it'll swing around once you learn its behaviors enough and all that good stuff. So I think that's some great stuff. Do you have any thoughts in terms of, like, I guess my question for this would be, since we're competing with this very, like, attractive force of fast moving everything, you know, everything's grabbing our attention and we're competing with all this crazy fast moving stuff, do you have any thoughts on what might be an effective way to grab in new younger generation people who are not necessarily like geared in a way to be patient already? Do you have any like thoughts on like ways that this can be done well?
It's really difficult to kind of teach patience, you know. I think for a lot of people you have to kind of learn it yourself. When I started out wildlife photography, you know, I think one of the classic things is you wouldn't wait for the animal, you'd kind of go after the animal. And I think a lot of the times now, instead of that, what I'll do is I'll set up in an area and wait. But I used to do, like, for ducks, this was totally awful and not a way you should photograph. I'd like walk up to the pond and I'd be like, why are the ducks taking off? What is this?
And I love it.
Yeah, I kind of learned to realize that, you know, they don't like humans, so they're just going to take off. So instead, maybe set up in the pond before sunrise, and then the ducks will come in, and yada, yada, yada. So what I kind of learned was that through kind of just, if you have a passion for something, you're gonna, you know, get more into it. And as I got more into that photography, I realized, oh shoot, well, the ducks start coming in at that time and they're skittish, so what if I started here and waited for the ducks to come in? And, you know, it started off with they'd come in and I'd be just standing up out in the open and they'd be like, I'm out of here, nope, bye-bye. And then eventually I was like, oh, well, what if I laid down and got a different perspective, you know? And I learned that through, like, videos online. Not exactly taught to me, but I kind of just, or not taught to me by a person, but taught to me by the birds, the conditions and all that. Yeah,
definitely, like, one of the ways that I've attempted to kind of bridge this gap, too, is with things like this Bird Burger channel, for example, even the Reacts video that I'm posting up. They're a lot for the purpose of trying to get people engaged that have, you know, maybe no connection or little connection with nature in the first place, and trying to use tactics that are kind of similar to what I guess they're already used to. But yeah, there's a really unique pull about like wildlife photography and the desire to capture like this amazing image that you haven't been able to capture before. That is really cool, and I think a huge draw about it that hopefully we can, continue to inspire people around your generation, your age with. So how can us, as I say us as if I'm all old. I'm not that old, but I guess my age, but even older than me and whatever, the older generation, how can we encourage and get youth into wildlife photography? How do you think it's maybe an effective way that we can do that?
I think the problem is it's really difficult, because I think a lot of people my age kind of are like, birds, wildlife, what the heck? That's lame, or whatever. And so I think it's kind of a thing of, it's really difficult to get people into that. But I was raised in a household where we kind of more valued nature and just the natural world. And so I think really getting people who are already kind of interested or kind of have a little bit of experience with that. One day I just took a photo of a bird and I was like, this is so cool, and it just spiraled me into this in-depth research and just getting into the world of bird photography. And I just thought, I just think it's really difficult to get the younger generation in, but being more inclusive, kind of inviting them in, or maybe just setting up programs where people can be educated about the wilderness, wildlife. Those are some good ways to get them into this art. Yeah,
just to share a little story that I have, I guess. I think it's really cool how you're talking about kind of taking that passion and that love for nature and then just kind of transferring it over. My encounter and like my love for birds actually began in Costa Rica when I was out there enjoying nature, doing landscape photography for a few months while I was living down there. And I was probably about 2 months into my living situation there when I was out in the morning trying to get some landscape photos, and I saw just this gorgeous bird called a blue-crowned Lessons motmot. I got it mixed up at the time. Lessons motmot land in front of me, and it's like this gorgeous, stunning bird with like this pendulum tail and just two twin feathers that drop down, and it'll just swing it like a pendulum right in front of you. And just this gorgeous, beautiful colored bird, and it just sat there right in front of me, like 10 feet away from me. And I started photographing it, and that experience like changed the way that I see wildlife. Like I had never seen wildlife in such a beautiful way and such an intriguing way. So I think that that's cool how you kind of share that kind of technique, and I think that that's definitely something I can agree with. And also I think how you were sharing, like that's how you were raised, and I think that just speaks so highly to kind of like the importance of like, I guess the family unit and how you're raised, or even just those that are close around you. Like when you're really sharing that love with each other, you're kind of instilling it with each other, and I think that makes for some really solid stuff that you can kind of mold into this great, awesome passion and care for nature, like you talked about. Any cool projects you're working on right now?
Right now, not really, but actually in a month, me and my friend Alex on Instagram, that's Kid with a Sony, we're actually doing a in-person workshop in San Diego for the San Diego Audubon and their San Diego Birding Festival.
There you go.
And we're doing an in-person workshop at La Jolla Cove. Yeah, exactly. And so that should be pretty fun. That's
cool, man. I wish you the best of luck with that. You've got some amazing shots, again, just to reiterate that. So you're killing it, dude. And I love seeing your images. Hope you keep at it. And you're doing a great job, man. Thanks for coming on and just talking about everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you go check out Christopher Smith. I'll leave his Instagram link below in the description. I hope this encourages you, if you're a younger wildlife photographer, just to keep going with it, stay inspired. And if you're an older wildlife photographer, in a way that maybe you can just be a part of this community and help raise up this community, and just encouraging you as well that you're doing an awesome job. So thank you guys so much for watching. I can't wait to see you guys in the next one.